What's up, guys? Chris here to give some brief, hopefully, afterthoughts on last night's UFC 149 pay-per-view. I didn't do a video last night because, to be honest, I was just dead tired, bored, frustrated after that pay-per-view. I ain't gonna lie, man. I was getting tired a couple times. I felt like I was literally gonna fall asleep, and I was watching it at a sports bar. No, mind you. The undercard was cool. You know, you had some good knockouts from Francisco Rivera, Ryan Gimo, and Antonio Carvalho. Pretty cool fights with Brian Caraway and Mitch Clark. The Court McGee-Nick Ring fight was alright. The pay-per-view started off well enough. Matt Riddle, that fight with Chris Clemens where he won by arm triangle choke, that was cool. But it was just all downhill from there, man. Brian Ebersol, James Head. Ebersol just really didn't offer much, and Head just really didn't. He did enough to win, but not really impressively. Czech Congo Chonjor was just shit. Just mostly a clinch fest on the cage. I mean, you expect some heavy hitting from these guys. At least one of them. You really didn't get anything from either of them. Hector Lombard, Tim Bosch. I put on Twitter, man, I really need Hector Lombard to bring the V after those last two fights. As in V for violence. Instead, he brought the V as in Valium. I just don't know what the hell was going on with Hector Lombard. I understand he was facing a tough opponent, but he just looked gun shy, which is the last thing you would have expected out of him. I don't know. He just didn't let his hands go enough, wasn't aggressive enough. Bosch more or less did what he needed to do to get the decision, even though I thought Lombard should have actually won the fight. I actually thought Lombard won rounds, 2-1 rounds, but I didn't even care about the decision. I'm like, Lombard, that's kind of what you get for fighting the way you fought. You kind of deserve to lose a decision just based on your performance, so whatever. And the main event between Urijah and Barao. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't the worst main event I've seen, although this is probably the worst pay-per-view I've seen in recent memory that I can remember. But just after the previous three fights, just enough didn't happen in this fight to really get the fans excited at all. And I'm in Sacramento. Their place wasn't completely packed like UFC 148, but there was a lot of people there to watch Urijah. And Urijah just didn't really have much to offer. After the first round, it just seemed pretty apparent that it was all Barao. Urijah, I don't really know what his strategy was. Whatever it wasn't successful. I don't know why the hell he had TJ Dillashaw, a younger, much more inexperienced fighter, being his corner man for the fight. I don't understand that. Urijah did some running forward. He did some throwing some strikes, but just I don't really know what the hell his game plan was. Went for some takedowns here and there, was unsuccessful, unfortunately. And Barao just pretty out outpointed him on the feet with the successful leg kicks, much like Aldo did, with long-range strikes, and kind of clowning him in the third round, doing that old-school Hoist Gracie stance. So Barao gets the win. In a way, I'm glad, because I would rather see Barao versus Cruz if Barao still has the title at the time that Cruz is ready to fight than Cruz favorite 3. I don't want to see that fight. I didn't really have a lot of interest in it, as I thought Cruz probably would have won a clear-cut decision. So, yeah, I sound about as excited as I was watching that event. One of the worst pay-per-views I can remember in a long time. Honestly, I really wish I would have just stayed home and not watched the fights at all. This is an event, if you didn't see it, you didn't miss out on anything. The pay-per-view, at least. Like, there's nothing where you can't move forward as an MMA fan and be like, I missed out on that, or I didn't see that. Or even for research purposes, there's just nothing. There's really not much positive take from this other than Barao's your new interim bantamweight UFC champion. That's it. Regardless, I'll be talking about this event as well as Bellator and anything else on MMA related on Science Minds Radio Show coming up soon. If you see this before, or if you don't, podcast on demand. Link in there for each part of the video as always, well as link to ScienceMinds.com, Science Minds on Facebook, and my Twitter account. That's it for now. What are your guys' thoughts on the event? Were you as disappointed as I was? Was it the worst pay-per-view you can remember in recent memory? I mean, I know UFC 147 sucked because it was mostly just Brazilian guys we had heard of. But at least the main event between Silva and Franklin was alright. It was better than this main event, in my opinion. So, thoughts on the overall pay-per-view if you watched it. If you didn't, don't, be grateful. And, yeah, that's it. Till next time, I'm out.